rely heavily on our colleagues in Indonesia to help us, with that part of the course, and so the question, it's still kind of unclear to me how coiling works when when the two courses have different topics.
Hmm.
So, like
Yeah.
for your side, the topic might be related to, you know, more specifically religious studies or even English language. And on our side, it's about the question of Indonesian architecture
Hmm.
and really specifically Islamic architecture in Indonesia and the cultural relationship. So, so I need one of the things that I need help with, and I think we've talked about this a little bit, is, and Muhammad I know has been reaching out to, and Bella's given, Bella and Jen have given Muhammad some suggestions for people to contact, and they've reached out to people because we're still looking for experts on Indonesian architecture who can do guest lectures. So
I
on our side, that's what one of the things that we're kind of hoping to, and then also, have the students have projects together that would be where your students would help our students to learn about Indonesian Islamic architecture.
If I
So
may,
yeah.
if I may interject, thank you, Salah, for that. I wonder if we could also, thanks for the update. I think that's really helpful. I do want to be sensitive to how much, if Pak Iwan and Pak Benny understand the background, Pak Dion, do we need to kind of explain again sort of the intentions of this project at MSU that has a focus
Oh,
on
please, Mbak Bella,
Islam?
if you don't mind.
Oh, okay,
Definitely,
yeah. So I
definitely.
wonder if we could start with that, Salah, to kind of catch up some of our new colleagues from Jambi. So there's like now a team, I think, of 4 lecturers working together on this particular
Oh, wow.
course on
Okay.
Islam and Malay civilization. So I wonder if we could
Okay.
start with that, and maybe a little bit of a productive time would be as Sala, you and Muhammad and Martha are still sort of building the course, the GSAEH course, if we could take a look and just dive deep into the syllabus that is existing that Pak
Yeah.
Mufdil has kindly shared with us, and just kind of take a look, because I see this, I see a unit, I see a week, I don't know if it's a week or 2 weeks, but I see a week on arts and architectures. So maybe we could just kind of go through and eye it, sort of like a bird's eye view, and then hone in on particular units as sort of possible hooks. And then we can figure out formats or,
Okay.
forms of what does that look like. And Pak Dion, I also am thinking we don't necessarily need to work on the basis of having a synchronous discussion face to face between the two courses, in light of sort of, language barriers. But we could still have, uh, like working sort of time that's asynchronous and synchronous, where sort of, we really hone in and utilize the strengths of each group. So but kind of working our way around having a face-to-face discussion. We'll I think we can explore that. But I wonder, yeah, Sala, if you don't mind, is that okay as a plan? Sort of like let's revisit
Yeah.
the vision, and then let's
Yeah.
deep dive into what's existing in the syllabus, and then we just brainstorm and sort of like spit, sort of like ideas.
Okay. Yep. Just give me a quick second because I have a dog who wants.
Hi,
Oh, right.
puppy, or not
I
a
could
puppy.
hear that.
He gets a little jealous when he hears me talking to other people. He's a very nice dog, but he has a big bark. But my daughter's gonna look after him. Okay. So so we did, we had, I'm trying to see if I can pull up the course description. Thanks, Nor. So here's the publicity that I just prepared this week for our course.
Mm.
And so it's a team talk course, and it's hybrid already. So it already has built into it an online component, which is asynchronous for our students.
Mm.
So just for Erwin and I'm sorry, Benny,
Iwan.
Iwan, I'm sorry, and
And
Benny.
Benny, yeah, Pak Benny, Pak Iwan,
Okay.
Pak Erwin.
And and I think Mufti, I think you heard some of this in Aisha. I think okay, so this is part of a bigger project which involves building a new website and having conferences and presentations and publishing papers and student projects. And so the course is just one piece of this that focuses on science, art, and faith through the study of the architectural heritage of Islam. So, like, as you know, probably better than most people, a lot of the scientific and artistic developments associated with Islam were attempts to express religious ideas and to come to reconcile certain kind of religious practices that became new things that people started to do, and they were like, okay, well, now we need to have water, flowing water at our mosques. So they started having more fountains and things like that, so that they could do wudu and be prepared to pray. We needed a mihrab in the direction of Mecca, and so they needed to study certain kinds of geography so that they knew the direction of the Kaaba. And the minbar was kind of associated with religious leadership. So a lot of and then the dome and the minaret are drawn in some ways from existing practices in architecture, but have a different use. So originally, I think the idea of the minaret was for the call of prayer, because they didn't have loudspeakers or anything like that, of course. So and the dome becomes a kind of symbolism of the heavens and these kinds of things. So you can find a lot of the scientific advances that Muslims made in the early period of Islam in the first 300 or 400 years. A lot of that had to do with trying to meet the demands of the religion. That the religion asked people to pray 5 times a day in the direction of the Kaaba. They had to know what the direction of the Kaaba was. And this is at a time when, they have there's still like the idea that the world is flat and they haven't crossed the Atlantic Ocean, and there's like a different sort of sense of geography of the world. So, and of course, this would be different in places like India or Indonesia than it would be, say, in Morocco or Spain, because one's east and one's west, and so lots of these connections that we're trying to make between science, art, and faith also have to do with the relationship that Islam has to other religions in the places where it grew. So in Asia in particular, Buddhism and Hinduism, and so we're also looking at the way that those religious practices influenced Islamic architecture, because they already had temples and they already had sites for their religious practices and shrines and things like this. So we're also looking at interfaith relationships. And Indonesia is particularly rich in that way, because not only is it about faith, but it's also about language and culture and clothing and food ways and all kinds of aspects of the way that Islam adapted to the local environments and became part of those places. And so we're also looking at this idea of a kind of interfaith, and so that's kind of the big project. So the course for the students, this isn't part of a program. It's in our global studies program. So GSAH means Global Studies in the Arts and Humanities, and that's the program that I direct. We've started to kind of just call it the Global Studies program, which is not its official name. Its official name is Global Studies in the Arts and Humanities. So GSAH is the number, the code, the alpha code that we use for our courses. And GSAH 391 is a special topics course. It's only being offered this year, right now. It could be offered again in the future. It will not. It won't be a course that we offer every year. So this is kind of an experiment for us. And what I've told Bella and Jen is that, from my perspective as the director of global studies in the arts and humanities, I don't see this relationship with Jambi or any of our Indonesian colleagues as necessarily. It doesn't have to be limited to the framework of our project. Sorry. Uh, it, I mean, we could explore other ways of partnering through COIL or other activities and other opportunities that we could look at in the future with global studies in the arts and humanities. And I'm sure that Mohammed would be interested in that with the Muslim studies program as well. So, so this is just really kind of a first attempt to kind of build this partnership and to develop the strategies for collaborative online learning and so what is it? Collaborative online international learning,
Yes.
and that COIL strategy, and see if we can do it across, time zone and geography and language and then also the idea that you have a syllabus and a course that you need to teach to your students. What can we bring to that? What is the and this was the question I asked Dion one of the first times we met, is like, I know what we're getting from the partnership, but I want to make sure that the Indonesian students and our Indonesian colleagues also have some benefits from the project. So that's kind of the big picture. And I know in my working with a lot of international organizations and institutes and doing exchange programs, I know there's a lot of value that comes from these kinds of partnerships in and of themselves, and it lays the basis for future work together. And so there doesn't have to be like a kind of concrete, you know, something that you can point to, but it's better if there is, if there's very specific things that we can say, well, this is what the Indonesian students got from this experience. This is how it was valuable to them. And so on our side, the challenge we're having is, we know what we need. We need people to help us because we don't have the expertise in Islamic architecture in Indonesia, and we want to be able to teach that to our students. And we don't know how, from the students and our colleagues in Indonesia who are studying, doing religious studies courses on Islam, some of the ideas that they want to share. I think that would be really enriching for our students. But I'm trying to think about like how, on our side, we can also deliver a rich intellectual and educational experience for our colleagues and for our counterparts, the Indonesian students over there, because they're going to know, like, a lot of the stuff we'll be doing is sort of like our students. Some of them will be Muslim and some of them will not be Muslim. We don't know. We don't know. Right now, the enrollment's very low. We have I think 8 or 9 students in the class. So that's another issue. Like if you have a big class with 30 or 40 students and then we only have 8 or 9, we have to figure out how to, if they're going to do an online collaboration, we're going to have small groups probably on our side of maybe 2 students or 3 students, depending on how, and we might end up with 4 groups with 2 or 3 students in each group. And then they're going to have some kind of online activity that they'll be doing. And, one of the things I don't know, and maybe Bella and Jen, this, is that because we're using D2L, is there a way to bring the Indonesian students into a D2L group? And then maybe there could be some kind of collaboration. So D2L is what we use for online learning. It's D2L stands for Desire to Learn. And I know for a course, if we want to have a D2L course, we have to have guest accounts for non-MSU people. So, but again, I don't know if that's the best way to go, or if we should buy, or if we should use, a Google Drive for sharing, or some other common thing that we can, Teams or something like that, that we could set up. So there's some of it is really, it's just kind of the challenge we're having. I think on our side is like, what are we bringing to the students in Indonesia that will be enhance their the course that they're taking. And I know I did receive a syllabus, but I don't think I have the. I think I even responded and said this looks really good, but
You
I
can send
can't.
that again.
Yeah, can you send that again?
Mhm. I'll send it through this chat if
Oh,
I
okay, yeah.
can do that. Am I allowed to do that? I wonder. Or I'll send
Uh,
I,
it through the email
yeah,
again.
I think this was very helpful, Professor Hassan, in terms of contextualizing and getting us all on the same page. But I think, yeah, the question about what will be beneficial to the students in Indonesia, specifically in this course, I mean, I would love to hear from Muftil and Aisha and others who will be a part of the project in terms of their perspective, what would be useful for their students, or if they have any questions.
Mufdil and Aisha, do you want to start, or you want me to start, and then I'll give the floor to you? Okay, so Salah, in terms of the the number of the student from Indonesian side is not gonna be like big class. It's gonna be 20 to 25 students. So it's not like 30 students. So if later on the session on Indonesia we are going to like have a like discussion, then we can like divide it into 3 groups. So from your side it's gonna be like 2 students, and from our side would be like like 6 to 7 students. So we're gonna like do maybe in breakout room or something. And
huh.
then yeah, and then the second thing, if I don't know if Asian studies can invite guests or visitor like international student did for the Chinese like who came to MSU, and they had like short classes, and they can join to D2L as well. So but that case, because we are here, it's I don't know, it's gonna be a bit challenging, right? Because so far they are there in East Lansing, and then international office can help like create an account. But here I don't know, maybe like we can go, like if the worst scenario, we can develop Google Classroom or something, or Google Drive, and
Hmm.
just do Zoom as Jen said in chat. So
Or WhatsApp.
or WhatsApp. I
Yeah.
I don't know if American student they don't like use WhatsApp a lot, right? And
Not.
but
Not.
yeah, before I give the mic to Mufdil and Aisha, I think our students are really interested in learning any kind of Islam outside Indonesia, because so far we only
Oh yeah.
expose
Yeah.
like Indonesian in Islam in Indonesia. So if we can learn Islam in India, in Egypt, in Morocco, or even Islam in the US, it's gonna be awesome from Indonesian
Hmm.
side. So those kind of like within Islamic realm, like architect, science, faith, because we're not really exposed to those kind of knowledge in our education system. I don't know, Mufdil and Aisha, Benny, if you have another opinion, or go ahead.
Okay, thank you so much for opportunity given to me. I will speak. First of all, I would like to say thanks to Professor Sola having for giving such a I'm sorry, such a suggestion and also brief introduction about the syllabus that we think that we will do we do such kind of elaboration or such kind of collaboration that you have mentioned. We also I'm here with Aisha and also Dr. Bini, that you have see in the I have sent our syllabus. We have designed our syllabus, but the syllabus is ongoing. Actually, is still ongoing because we try to have a kind of a model for interesting class, because for a long we have a class, but our class is only for our student. We don't still have an experience to have like a collaboration. Especially this is we think that is a great opportunity for us to have a great experience, especially with you. We know that in Michigan State University there is a department of ASEAN Studies. And then we know that the Islam as a part of Indonesia, as a part of the biggest Islamic country in the world, as part of in context of the area study, it is in the context of Islam in Southeast Asia, but it's also beyond the networks of Islam, and also beyond the study of Islam in Asia and also in the world. What we have today that we have designed in our syllabus is about the Islam and in Malay civilization. We consider to enhance and also to study more about the idea of Islam that have developed in Islam in Malay civilization or Malay archipelago, so that we think that we will focus on the history of Islam. In terms of the topic of history of Islam, of course, we don't. We also study, like you said, that we also study about the issue of global studies, about the networking that maybe from the Professor Azumardi Azra, I think that is prominent scholar from Indonesia, about the study of Islamic networks. That's why in the first part of our syllabus, we are going to talk about the networks between Islam from Arab world to Islam in Southeast Asia. We are so excited on your syllabus, that also about your brief description and about your study on architecture, especially, and art and architecture, that and you have seen on our syllabus that we have also a topic about the Islam and architecture. Why this is so important for us? Because we think that in Indonesia especially, if we talk about Indonesia, we talk from Aceh until Malaya in Moluccans. We have Java. We have different parts of Indonesia, and also different kind of Islam. The Islam in Indonesia is not it is not only one model, but there are many kind of Islam. By the adding S, yeah, Islam mod kind of articulation of Islam. And that's also the architecture of Islam. On the syllabus, we have designed that we will have a study on the Islamic traditions, where we are focused on the Islam and architecture. We see, but we will focus on Islam in Jambi, in Malay civilization. I think it's quite spread from Indonesia, Malaysia, Singapore, Philippines, Thailand, but also Malay civilization is also here in Indonesia. There is also here in Jambi. Yeah. I think we will we will discuss about the way how we will develop our collaborative models to have a good class, enjoy class, that we know that it is will be our biggest experience. We hopefully that will we expect that our student and also me as a instructor and also young with you and also sharing many experiences that we have, especially in small area of Islam in Jambi here. We are waiting for it, looking forward for have a collaboration, maybe that kind of collaboration that we can design is like what topic, I think, Professor, what topic that at what time and what topic that we can have a kind of model of collaboration. uh, we have different kind of topics here for every week, but the focus of presentation of student group, it will be in the last meeting, yeah, three or four meetings, last 3 or 4 meetings, but it will be in the from the first meeting, maybe the second or the first meeting, but because we will focus on the collaboration, we will focus on the collaboration for the first impression, first time that we join the class. Yeah, yeah. I think it will be good for, and also the topic that we have shared to you. Yeah, yeah. uh, yeah, maybe I think that's also we designed to have a like a small project field research, and we think that we think to have like a field research, and where our student here will portray the architecture of Islam, especially in Jambi, and also in many places in Indonesia, that we can find it in article or in encyclopedia, and we can share it together. We share in our class. Yeah, thank you. I think we will discuss more. Thank you, Mas Dion.
Thank you. That's, yeah. I mean, I think it looks like a great course. And as you were talking, I was thinking, yeah, there's definitely, now I'm beginning to, put some things together. So, one of the things we'll be talking about, and this will overlap with some of your other general topics, but especially that unit on architecture and art, and which is number 12. Number 12 on your Roman numeral 12,
Yeah.
Islamic Tradition in Indonesia, Arts and Architecture, case study. So one of the things that occurred to me is, like, we will be talking about Islam in a global context. So this connects with sort of the idea of like the heterogeneity of Islam, that Islam is very diverse. Even in a national context like Indonesia, you have lots of diversity, but then globally you have lots of diversity. So there could be, like opportunities for, our students working on, say, Egypt, when you're doing like the part on the Arab world, they could have a connection there. So it doesn't have to be, like, the more I think about it, and Bella, let me know if your understanding of COIL is different. It doesn't necessarily have to be like 3 weeks in a row where
Right.
we could do it. We could do like, okay, like maybe 1 or 2 weeks where there's a connection and a project and some kind of collaborative thing, and then you do your thing and we do our thing, and then we come back together. So it could be like maybe like once or twice a month where we make these connections,
Mhm.
and or like 1 week out of every month. So like our semester runs from like basically the last week of August or the first week of September until the first week of December. So, and
Yeah.
is yours across the whole year, or is it across do you have like a term, or do you go
Have a
from?
semester base. When is the semester? That would be what? Ganjil. Semester
We
ganjil.
we will start on August as well, right? Pak
Okay.
Bill. But then we have like 16 meeting. I know that in MSU, you guys have like shorter than or lower than 16, right?
We have 16
We meet,
weeks.
we'll meet 14 or 15 times
Yeah,
during the
14,
semester.
right? And we meet 16. So
Yeah.
it's a different.
Yeah, I
We
think
might, we might,
to
we might
to
have,
reiterate, mm,
yeah,
I think you're right, Salah. So we don't, again, we can think of a synchronous situation, but it doesn't have to go through like just 3 weeks and like, engagement. It could be like really asynchronous. I think it would be helpful to think of the learning goal first.
yeah,
Like, what is a sub learning goal? I think it's becoming clear now. I mean, there's sort of the goal of, at least from the MSU side, is to help students gain knowledge about how Islam is diverse globally and Islam is diverse within a national context. That's one. And then from the UIN Jambi, I hear sort of, Islam and how that looks like, in other contexts globally. So I think there's that. And there's also then that within the syllabus, how does, the framing is how does Malay civilization becomes the foundation on which Islamic faith traditions and places of worship then becomes built, which is, I think, a question that is the Templeton is asking, is how, like, what is the interfaith, what is the intercultural or sort of diversity of ethnic and religious, even linguistic values becomes the bed on which Islamic architectures are built. So I think that's another learning goal. And then perhaps we could just kind of think in terms of what's a project, what would independently your students can do in terms of a project surrounding those questions, and then what piece can be collaborative. So sorry, Salah, I kind of cut you off, but go ahead.
no, that's great.
Yeah,
That's great. I think
that's
that's all really important.
that's a good idea. We can actually maybe perhaps like a small project. For example, if like student in the US kind of like make a short video about, like portray Islam in East Lansing, like per se, or in Detroit or other place in, around Michigan, like 5 to 7 minutes. And in our side, our students also have a small project to create a, like simple video that portray or like capture the, unique mosque that we have in Indonesia, because we have a very unique mosque in Jambi, which is like, designed as a Chinese temple kind of, like, but that is a mosque. It's not a Chinese temple or, like other, so it's just mosque, but it looks like, like a Chinese architect. And we also have, like the very old building, a very old mosque, which is that student can, like create a short video, and then, and then we can like send it to the US, and then the US video can send them to Indonesia, and we can discuss it together, like what are the difference and what are the similarities, and how the rituals there in the US and what the rituals here in Indonesia. I don't know. It's just like, a thought on a project that we can do.
Yeah, I think just to kind of respond to both of you, I think the idea of learning goal, I think we need to have, so each course is going to, this is part of our problem right now also, is Muhammad, Martha, and I are trying to work out our learning outcomes. Like, what do we want the students to take out of our course, just our course, without the COIL piece of it. And then what do we want them to take out of the coiling of the course is going to be a little bit different. I mean, they'll overlap, but there's going to be some very specific learning outcomes that we want the students to have, not to prepare them for their major, but because this isn't part of the major. It's part of our, I mean, if you're a global studies major, you can count it. But you know what I mean? It's a topics course. So it's more like what knowledge, skills specifically will they have when they complete the course, and they can say, okay, now I have this knowledge and these skills. So some of those are going to be skills of communication, and so like that's going to be a primary skill is communication. So that will overlap with the COILing. So if we say that one of our goals is intercultural communication, is one of our kind of that one of the goals of COILing is intercultural communication between American students and Indonesian students. So we could say that that's like the kind of the primary goal. So what we're talking about doesn't matter then, as long as they're talking. Do you see what I mean? Like that's the goal is like, oh, they're talking.
So it's
when you were-
content agnostic.
yeah. So when Dion, when you were talking about a video or photo exchange or photo or video, I was thinking video or photo exchange. Like we could have like kind of like pen pals where they make a video and they have to narrate something. It doesn't have to be even 5 minutes. It can be like 2 minutes. It could be like Flipgrid. I don't know if you've ever used Flipgrid. I mean, it could be on Flipgrid. It could be something like, okay, here I am in front of this mosque or in front of this space. And, you know, I've never been here before. And the reason why I came here is because I want to show this to my counterparts in the United States because they haven't seen this either. And this is as a young person in Indonesia, you know, however, and they could do it in their own language, and then we can get it.
Right.
Can we get it like, you know, subtitled or something?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Caption.
And so,
Yeah.
yeah.
We don't really know what software that you're talking, but we are really familiar with TikTok and Instagram. So
Yeah. I mean, it could be
maybe
on
that's going to
social
be like
media.
similar.
So we create a social media group of all the students, and then they have a certain number of these exchanges that they'll
Right.
do. You know, like pen pals, but they could do it through video or photography with some narrative, like where they
What is that once again? Pen pal?
pen pal. So in the old days,
Okay,
when,
pen pal. I know pen
you know,
pal. Yeah.
before social media, people would
Right.
be like,
Yes. I
"Oh,
know.
here's
Writing
my
letters.
Right.
yeah, here's my
Mail.
like they had a pen and they would
Right.
write a letter."
All that.
Yeah, so pen pals would be people in different countries where they would write back and forth to each other. They never met. They never knew each other. They would just be like, "Hi, my name is so and so. I live in France and I'm curious about your life in Canada. Can you please tell me about how you know, usually this was something young people did to get to know the world. It was part of a kind of civic engagement that people did at an individual level so that they could learn about and make friends. And then eventually they might meet. You know, the person from Canada would go to France, or the person from France would go to Canada. So these were things that like I never did it, but my sister did. My sister had a pen pal, and she was a big writer. She had multiple pen pals, and she used to write to. She's older, and she used to write to all of these teenage girls that she knew all over the place, and it was just a way to kind of make a connection. And part of it, I think, came out of the idea that, you know, I'm Canadian, so like the Canada or the United States, these are places, you know, of privilege, but we don't know a lot about the world. You know, like we have lots of privilege and comfort and ease of life, but we don't know what's going on in the rest of the world. So it was like and I don't know if they did it for a school project. It might have been starting as a school project or an optional project in high school, like eighth, ninth, 10th grade, that kind of thing. But we could do something similar, but using like video where like your students prepare these short videos, send them to our students, and then our students send something back, and where they just sort of exchange. And then for the English language development on your side, because this is something we can help with, right? So we can help with English language learning, and so our students will be doing theirs in English, but they won't be subtitled. So then for your students, they'll have to, you know, work to understand them if if they're still working to learn English. And then that'll be like a opportunity for them to have a more connected. So it's different than watching TV or,
Right.
you know, watching YouTube or something like that, where you can have subtitles. I mean, maybe they can do subtitles if they need the help. But something along those lines might be, and we could kind of run that for a certain period of time. That way, we don't have to worry about like does the content fit. But just in terms of content, I mean, one of the things we will be talking about, in addition to Islam in a global context, and so that could be like a learning goal for your students. It's like, we're going to be talking about Egypt, we're going to be talking about Uzbekistan, and so these are places that aren't familiar to your students. They're not familiar to our students. So there's a common lack of knowledge for your students. But your students will have the advantage of understanding some of the cultural references
True.
that about Islam and things like that. Some of your students will understand that. Most of our students will not. So and we will probably have some internet. We usually have international students in our classes that are in East Lansing, like from China or India or Africa. So we usually have some international students who have their own so that's that sort of kind of global context of the classroom. So for some of your students, it'd be an opportunity to connect with students from other countries. Even though you have a large Chinese population, we have a lot of Chinese students still at MSU. So, but it's a different experience maybe than the Chinese community in Indonesia, because these are international students who have come from mainland China. So there's that. And then the last thing I would say in terms of like what we can sort of, and this, I think Dion mentioned this, but like the arts and science piece of Islam, like we'll be talking about that. So I don't know how much that, it doesn't look like that's, like your syllabus looks more like a kind of, like a religious studies course that focuses on culture, identity, ethnicity, that kind of thing. Is that fair? Like, because it goes through the different places of like Islam and Malay culture, so including the Philippines
Yeah.
and beyond. So what we would be doing then is looking at, so say the relationship of art and science and how Islamic religious practice encourage certain developments in art and science. And so Muhammad has quite a bit of knowledge about that area as it relates to Islamic law. So like what's required of Muslims, and then how do we meet those requirements in the physical space? So that Muslims can have these spaces to worship and have these spaces to practice their religion. And some of that means like we don't have like pictures of Muhammad. We have different, like Christians have a crucifix and they have pictures of Jesus and the Virgin Mary and these kinds of things. And even though there are portraits of some Muslim figures in the history, including Muhammad and his family, those are like in miniatures. You've seen maybe some of these. Most of the abstract art that we see, the geometrical aspects of it are very sophisticated, mathematical elaborations of ideas about, like Allah and sort of the infinite. So there's a lot of richness there that most people don't really realize why, the designs are the way they are, like where they come from. And some of them come from nature, like from flowers or from the stars or these kinds of things. So there's a whole area of science there where they studied plants and then took the shape of these plants and then turned them into geometric shapes that could then be used to decorate mosques and books and the Quran and these kinds of things. Or looked at the sky and the heavens and took from the celestial forms. So that required astronomy and the advances of astronomy, which then lead to advances in navigation, which then allow for travel to places like Indonesia from Arabia. So you get all of it all kind of ties together in a really interesting way. I don't know how much we'll go into that, but those are things I think. So Islam in a global context, Islam, art and science, and then the English language learning piece of it. I think those could be learning outcomes for your students that we could help. So this has been really.
Yeah, thank you so much, Salah. This is really helpful. And just so everyone knows, I'm taking notes and I'll send it to everyone. I don't have Pa Irwin, Ivan, and Benny's email addresses. So Dion, you can forward on to them, but I will send to everyone else. One thought I had is I really love the idea of the video exchange, whatever platform that ends up being on. I think that would be a really neat idea. But I think we need to, my understanding with COIL is the reflection piece is super important for learning. And so I think we need to be intentional about building that in, whether it's a asynchronous discussion group, like on WhatsApp that everyone is in, including, the instructors, or that each small group has, or something like that, or whether it's on D2L or whatever. I just think, or whether we have a end of semester, like synchronous Zoom meeting at a time when everyone could join and have an actual discussion, like the students could almost discuss in front of the instructors, what they've learned and things like that. But I just think we have to keep that reflection piece in mind as part of the planning. My understanding is that's a really important part of for learning. And then, yeah, anyway, that's all I had to share now. I wanted to let you know I'm taking notes, and I'll send those. And then also just the thought about the reflection piece. And it's interesting because, Sala, you're talking about, the physical kind of manifestation of, in terms of making spaces for worship. And I think Erwin is actually like outside ordering steel right now for a prayer space. So it just kind of clicked in my mind that he's actually doing that right now.
Yeah. I mean, like, a lot of people just don't realize that there's like a lot of the aesthetic design features were intended to meet practical needs, and then what happens is that as those practical needs get met, then people try to do more original things. It's like, okay, now we've met the practical need. How can we make this more exciting, more original, more unique, and things like that. And so at first, it's really just kind of a basic thing. It's like, okay, we're going to have a call to prayer. If I do the call to prayer from the ground, then, it doesn't project. But if we build a tower, so you build a simple tower and you put the muezzin on the tower, and then he can do the call to prayer, and then it's a call to the world, right? It's like it has this kind of symbolism that and the idea that all of the muezzins are doing it the muezzin is the call to prayer, the person who does the call to prayer, that they're doing it all at the same time. This sort of idea that it's this collective thing, even though it's this individual. But then once you have the tower, you can have a very simple tower, and then you can be like, well, we're going to make this into like the minaret. We're going to make this into an iconic thing. For every mosque is going to have a minaret or many minarets, and then they multiply it, even though you're only ever going to use one for the call to prayer. But that becomes this kind of, so like some mosques 4 or 6, or and often the practical part of the architecture was linked to the status of the person who commissioned it. So the caliph, or someone who wanted to build a mosque for, someone in honor of their family member, or something like an elder, like a grandfather, usually like somebody who founded the dynasty or something like that. So the practical part is also kind of creating a living history for them. So I mean, the most famous, of course, is the Taj Mahal, which is not really a mosque, but is an Islamic structure, and kind of serves that purpose as a memorial. And so you have these kinds of practical needs that Muslims had to meet, and the architecture and the art came up with the new science, actually, to be able to figure out how to do that. And then it just sort of fed itself, and so it's quite beautiful. And most Muslims don't realize these things, because it's like in the deep structure of the history of, unless they're engineers or architects or art historians. So I think those are things we'll discuss and would be really useful in the context of your class.
Go ahead, Abdullah, and then after you.
Okay. Yeah. So I'm hearing that And I wonder, because I don't know, Salah, if, from what you're saying, then it might translate to the conversation on how the art and science basis of, as expressed in sort of like architectural artifacts, precedes the conversation on how the social-cultural expressions then shape these places of worship. Is that sort of like a precedence? Like like you said, so the design and the architect, it meets the practical needs, and then there's sort of like the social identity piece. So it really comes in the second half of, or like the latter stages in the course, because I'm also seeing
Yeah,
in the
yeah.
Indonesia syllabus, Pak Mufdil,
Yeah,
that the architecture conversation comes really late. And
yeah,
I don't know if the order is, but I do see at the middle, in the middle, you have the rise of Muslim community in politics, identity, and Malay world, where I think it's interesting to then bring in the architecture conversation as a case example of that theme.
Mhm.
But still, it comes sort of like in the middle. It doesn't come at the beginning. So I wonder if, some of our activities that are in the content is really sort of like, it comes sort of a bit later, but at the beginning, we come with sort of like, introduction, like, so the students can just, build relationships first
Mhm.
and then go into the project, because then by that time they've, in the MSU, they've kind of covered sort of like the arts and science influences, or sort of like how it shapes the architecture. And by that time in the UIN Jambi, you're ready to talk about that politics identity piece. And how, so I guess I also am, questioning and proposing whether the architecture conversation can be shift earlier. Because right now, I think it's like Roman numeral 12, and that's really late in the syllabus for them to start having a project. So
Hmm.
go ahead, Jan.
Yeah, I think I can follow up with that as well. Because as Mufdil mentioned before, that this syllabus is not fixed yet. So we are going to, like revise, and then based on our meeting today, and we for sure, Mufdil, Aisha and Benny will work together and kind of like revise based on, and we can adjust to like for example, also we don't cover science topic yet, but I think with like the syllabus that the TSAH in Michigan have, that you not only discuss on art and architecture, but also talking about science in Islam, then we can also probably add topic on science in Islam, and we can cover that. What about that, Pak Mufdil? Do you agree if we kind of like move art and culture like at the beginning, as Mbak Bella said, and then perhaps we can also add topic on science. Go ahead.
I think that will be interesting for us, especially to elaborate our syllabus, that especially about the topic of architecture, that it will be put in the first first term, or first the first part of our syllabus here. We are
He froze for me.
Yeah, it's freeze.
Deal.
Pak Benny, do you want to say something, Pak Benny? Well,
we are talking
there
of
you go.
objective of study in terms of the, okay, the I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm thinking of the
We can hear
I'm
you.
thinking of
Yeah,
the,
we can hear you.
okay, I'm sorry. Okay, I'm thinking of the topic, not the topic, the arts, the arts and architecture will be focus of analysis in our objective of study. I'm thinking of the maybe we will consider, and I will discuss. I don't know the opinion, and also from my team here, Dr. Benny and also Aisa, that such kind of suggestion from Professor Salah, theoretically.
Okay, it's gone.
He's back, he's back.
Okay, Pak Mufdil, you are mute.
Yeah, theoretically speaking, our focus is on the network of the Islam. But the focus of analysis, I think, it will be on the art and architecture. Yeah, that's why we consider to think that in the first meeting it will be on the subject of looking at the architecture of Islam, that will be kind of model of analysis to on the topic on the theory of the network of Islam. It will be the objective of study, and also the student will be enrich their analysis from the example, from the example of the buildings, like a building of mosque. The building also that like Mr. Dion said, that here we have indigenous model of mosque, that where people live in the west, the Coast River, river Coast, but the building of the mosque is similar with the house, the model of house of the people, where they have like a we said it rumah panggung, but in another model of mosque, there is a they call it the stone mosque, or masjid batu, stone mosque. There is the breath of the Sufi from Arab, Hadrami from Arab, and also there is a model of mosque of Chinese architecture. I think in our syllabus we focus on the networking of Islam as a cosmopolitanism of Islam. I also want to respond, Professor Salah, about the what the goal of the study. I think simply the goal of study is, I think, that where our student can have a skill to communicate each other from different context, from different culture. We can learn about the multiculturalism. The multiculturalism is not only globally speaking, where we can meet each other, what can in person, but we can meet each other in online. Yeah, that's why I think that is very simple, and also for after from that, as the student also will have a multicultural experience in terms of when the students from in America will share about their religious experience, and also of course I think maybe mostly even all of our students here is Muslim, but I think it will be there is diverse religion in America from the student. But I think the sharing experience about multiculturalism is very important. That will be as well as a simple model of intercultural dialogue. That's why I think that the way we can communicate in the media, and maybe in the group, or in the Facebook, maybe in the WhatsApp group, because the WhatsApp is very popular here in Indonesia. There is a people, or maybe that will be like a group of email group, email group. Then where people in every week they will we can share the very simple topic about the brief introduction about their life, and also about their maybe their religious experience, and also about their environments. Every day, every week, they will share their experience, and also they will see from others in America. This possible activities like we can start from the very simple way of model of interaction or dialogues. In terms of the arts and science, I think we also talk about the indigenous knowledge behind behind the study about the Islam, and like you I know that in religious studies, as my expertise, we here we have a model of articulation, or model of acculturation between Islam as a word religion, and we here call as adat al-adah, uh, that is an indigenous perspective of people when Islam coming from Arab, from different culture, but here they have their a model of practice of adat or culture, but when Islam come, they articulate Islam in their way, in their indigenous way. That's why I want to give some example, like model of mass, how they build mass in their knowledge, in their times. Here in Islam has been spread mostly across Nusantara, maybe in 17th century, but in different part where people live in a rural area, they close to the forest, where they will build the mosque from the wood without any kind of the nail. So how they manage that, I think it will be about the science, and it will be about the science, and also it will be about the science, that how they uh, uh, determine the direction of Qiblah, the direction towards to Kaabah, the direction to Kaabah. But because at that time there is no technology, in 17th century there is in specific area, in rural area here in Jambi, for example, there is no influence of colonialism that bring technology to them, but they can have the model of direction to model to determine the direction of Qibla. I think that will be model of arts, and the relationship between arts, science, architecture, in terms of civil engineering, and also in terms of forest study of forestry, forestries, and many others. Yeah, okay. Maybe Aisa or Dr. Benny will, yeah. Okay.
Maybe I want add little things. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Our yeah, I move this microphone. Our discussion of Islam and Malay is about the relationship and influence of many people, such as India, China, and Middle East. That's why I think what Professor over is important to us also in the context of Indonesia. We accept offer from Professor. We are, as we assert many times, we open to adjust our syllabus, to change and rearrange the meeting. And also I want to add about the goal of this collaboration. I think from our side, this collaboration can show our student about the interesting and the complex nature of Islam in Indonesia, which is for Indonesian today is smaller, inferior. Indonesian people often feel inferior compared to Islam in Middle East. That's why we hope that this collaboration will trigger our student to future study or to have the interest for this study, especially in Islam and Malay topic. Maybe that's from me.
Mhm. Yeah, that's really interesting. Did Benny, did he want to add something?
Pak Benny, do you want to say something, Pak Benny? No, not yet, maybe.
Okay. I think this has been really helpful, and I'll bring all these suggestions. I think if, I wouldn't want you to reorganize your syllabus too much to suit our needs, or to fit into what we're trying to do. I think if you feel like you want to, put the section on architecture and art earlier, that's fine. If you want to leave it where it is, it's fine. But I think what we could imagine as working possibly as so we're going to have so Muhammad Khalil will be doing some overview in the of like the history of Islam and the project and interfaith relations in Islam. The idea of the people of the book, Ahl al-Kitab, and these kinds of ideas, and just some general terms that are relevant to Islamic architecture and Islamic practice. So that would be at the beginning. So that would fit with, probably, with your section on the, let me pull up the Islam in the Arab context, I think, which is,
The
yeah,
history
in
of
the
Islam
Arab world,
in
history of
Arab.
Islam, Arab world, yeah. So, and so you could have your introductory sessions about what you're doing in your class, and then we would have ours. But then when Muhammad gets more into the history of Islam, and it will be mostly focused on the early period of in the Arab world. So it won't be like of course, the whole Arab world, but it will address these issues of pre-Islamic, some of the dynasties that we'll be focusing on, especially like the early ones from the beginning, but also in the medieval period, particularly the Ottoman and Mamluk, and because he'll be focusing on Egypt, and then we're going to have and then I think he's going to talk about Egypt and architecture in Egypt, and he'll be looking at like the architectural traditions in relation to specific dynasties. So like the Ayyubid dynasty, or the Fatimid dynasty, and then the Mamluk, and then the Ottoman. So I'm not sure how he's going to do that, if he's going to try and cover all of them or only some of them. But that would be kind of the period from the Fatimid to the Ottoman, I think. And then I think what we'll do is probably Martha will organize her unit around Uzbekistan and have some presentations in that context. And then we would conclude with the Indonesia part of it. So, one way would be to, like, if we kind of think about it as like September, October, November, like each one would be like maybe about 3 weeks. And so maybe what we could plan is, like during 1 week, there's sort of like a COIL week for each month. And we'll try to like map it so that it's, I don't want to be like too rigid about it, but like so that what we're doing overlaps a little bit with what you're doing. And so in that sense, like the architecture and art could come at the end. you know, like that could, if it's Indonesia specific, and then you could do the presentations for our students, or you could have someone, or we could invite someone on your reading list maybe. Because we have, through the grant, we have money to bring in guest speakers. So if there's people that you wanted us to bring into the class to do presentations, and then we can record those presentations and your students could watch them if they're not available to attend synchronously. But they could attend synchronously if they want to stay up really late, because it's our class is at midday, so it's 12-hour or 10-hour. What is it?
I think we
12 or
don't
11?
mind with that, Salah. We don't mind at
Yeah.
all to, like stay up late at night, because we
Yeah.
don't meet
Really,
like
really
every
late
week.
though.
I mean, we don't meet every week. Like, like if Salah mentioned September, October, November, like every week would be COIL week. It means that we perhaps maybe at least we meet like 3 times, right? I mean, 3 times
Yeah.
during our semester. So,
We might meet like at the very beginning.
okay.
I mean, like, well, I guess I'm not saying meet. I'm thinking more like have like a week that we would designate as a COIL week, and whatever form it took, it might mean that this is the week of like a video exchange. The students have to prepare a video exchange and communicate with each other by exchanging videos or photos or narrative or whatever, like whatever they're going to exchange. And so we would try to do something like that for sure. I think that's a really good idea. But we might be able to try and organize a meeting at the very beginning of the semester, in the introductory,
Awesome.
and then at the very end, so that we can talk about like what are our goals and why are we doing this, and what are our objectives of like coiling. It's a cool thing, but beyond it just being a cool thing, like what's the really educational goal here. And then we could have like kind of maybe 3 weeks, one each month, where we would say, okay, this is when we're going to sort of, and in between, if we have the students connected, they can be communicating with each other. Like we could build in like chats, like little chat room, or some kind of WhatsApp groups.
WhatsApp groups, yeah.
Yeah, we could do different kinds of things online that's asynchronous, but where they're communicating with each other. Like we could actually have like little mini sort of assignments where we would say, okay, you're going to have like a kind of a deadline for this week where you have to have a COIL project, but in between those, you should be communicating. You should
Right.
have some contact. And then we should do the same with the faculty. We should be talking with the faculty about what you're doing and how, and we can adjust.
If I may, a project idea, I think we have sort of been playing and toying with this idea, but I wonder if we could have a project where it's basically scaffolding. There's like one stage of the project, and then there's a second stage of the project, and all surrounding sort of having students really kind of grapple with the question of, for instance, how does adat, how does culture, how does a multicultural sort of basis show up in mosque in this location, right? So like they basically do, and I don't know if people have played around with Google Earth, and Google Maps. We can do like this video project. Well, students can talk, and research and display their knowledge and, learning as they built this Google Earth project or Google Map 360, because you can really do like a show and tell, right? But you kind of talk through what you learn about how adat, or how tradition, how the whether a multi-faith community or a multi-ethnic sort of like basis of the community show up in these places of worship or in these mosques. And then, so that could be sort of like a goal, like a project goal that they collaborate in small groups. And then the sort of on the second stage to scaffold that, they do it for a second place. So a second mosque in some other place. So maybe the group in Indonesia can do one, with the MSU students can do one for mosques in Indonesia. And because of Google Earth and Google Map, you don't have to do the one in Jambi. You can, but you can do the one in wherever, in Maluku or in Semarang or in Java or somewhere. And then the second video that they ask the same questions, but they do it in a different context. Maybe they join the group in doing one in Morocco. Maybe another group join one that's doing, like sort of exploring, asking the same questions for Turkey or for, and is it Uzbekistan? I think Uzbekistan or, and so in that way, they get that comparative, this global diversity, but they're asking the same questions. How does an interfaith foundation show up at a building of a mosque? And, so that's a project idea that, I think it's small enough, it's pretty bounded, but they get to ask these questions to get at all some of the learning goals that we've talked about.
Yeah, I think I think scaffolding it along those lines makes a lot of sense. And I feel like you, on your side, know exactly what you're doing. You have a course, you have faculty, you have a curriculum, you have syllabus. It's all working. On our side, because this is a completely new course, and Mohammed and I have worked together on a lot of different things, but including we did teach we sort of co-taught a course at one point. And it was similar. It was a special topics course at the time of the election in 2016. And we did a thing on the election in Islam, before Trump was elected. So we have, but Martha and Mohammed and I haven't worked together on teaching a course. And she's in a different college. Mohammed and I are in the same college. We're in the College of Arts and Letters. So religious studies and global studies are linked. But Martha's in a different college. So they have different expectations. So we're still trying to work out it's a good idea. We like it. We're all kind of on the same page, but we don't all, and she's kind of more of a political scientist, and we're arts and humanities people. So we're still, so I'll take this to them, and whatever notes Jen sends, because I also made my notes. And we're going to meet. Muhammad hasn't been feeling very well, so he has COVID. So I think he's going to be okay, but he was pretty sick, and we had a very brief meeting to talk about the course, but we really need to hammer down our what we're doing. And I think then when we come back, so I asked them to, by the first week of June, so by next Friday, if we could have a draft syllabus. And so, I'm hoping by like next Friday, we'll have, because I'm the director of the program, it's our course, I have the responsibility, for our program to have this so we can get students in the class. And so we're recruiting students, and we need to be able to tell them what we're doing. And so we need to get our ship in shape, so to speak, before we can really, but it looks like, I think you've really helped us by, pulling together your syllabus, Aisha and Muftil, and so we're kind of behind you on that, and we need to catch up. And like part of it is, like I said, this is just the first time we're doing this, and we're not, we've not really worked together before, so we have to figure out how to meet everybody's expectations. And I know that Martha's trying to recruit students from her college into the class. So let me just remind you, though, that in terms of what we're doing, we meet. So our class is set up for 2 days of meetings, Tuesdays and Thursdays, and we're meeting. Let's see, what did I say we were meeting? 12:40 to 2 p.m. Eastern time in person on Tuesdays. So, but we do have Thursday meeting possibilities available. So, like, we have a classroom for Thursdays at that same time, but we were not planning to meet on Thursdays. We were planning to use that for online activities. And so what that usually means from our side is we have like a discussion forum on D2L. Like I don't know what they call it. What's the generic? They call them discussion forums on D2L. I don't know what the and where we post a question and we put a question to them, and then they have to write like like not a paper, but it's like quite substantial, like 250 words, and then they have to talk to each other. You know, where like one student responds to the question, another student has to respond to the student's response, and that kind of thing. So they have a bit of an online exchange. So we already have that idea kind of built into it, but I'm trying to think about ways that we could include the Indonesian students, because that's built into D2L, and so we need to find a different platform that I think would be more accommodating for you know, because that's so that gives, I mean, that model is like, it's online learning, it's not international, but it's online learning and it's asynchronous. So there's no reason why that same model can't be used across, you know, the US and Indonesia, right? Like we just use that same model. We just have to find the right technology. And I don't, like, WhatsApp is good for short messages and sharing photos and things like that. But it wouldn't be really quite suitable for this kind of thing, because they need to sit down at their computer and write, and then we need to be able to access it and kind of look at what they're doing and send them comments and things like that. So we need to find some way to do
Yeah.
that.
I will look into the D2L
Yeah.
option, Sala. So I'll do some checking over the next week to see if it's possible, you know, to do that. And if not, I think we could always like set up a Google Classroom or something that is easily accessible for students.
Yeah, I know my kids use Google Classroom in their schools, but I've never used it. So, but it seems pretty straightforward. So
Yeah.
we can definitely try that.
I am a little, sorry, I'm a little worried about the time because it is very late tonight, now in Indonesia. So in terms of next steps, we're definitely going to look into D2L. I know you'll share the syllabus once you guys have a draft. And then I think it really might be nice to start putting on paper some of the brainstorming for the project, the shared project. It doesn't have to be a final draft, but something that like a Google Doc or something that both Muftil and, you know, Aisha and also others from UIN Jambi, as well as Salah, you and Martha and Mohammed can work on in terms of getting all the things you've talked about today on paper and kind of fleshing that out. Something that would be student facing in the end, right? That students could actually be given to students.
Yeah.
Anything else for next steps? I see people asking about next Friday meeting at the same time. I can't, but that doesn't mean you can't meet. So I think it's great if everyone else can meet next Friday at 8 a.m.
We can find another day if you, I mean.
Well, I'm at a conference all week next week. So
Okay.
I probably, and it's in Colorado. So it's like,
Oh, it's
like
cool.
8 a.m.
Super early.
Yeah, that would be like 5 a.m. I think, which I might be able to join, but I might be awake, but I don't want to make any promises. Also, I fly home on Friday, so never mind, because I think I'll be at the airport at that time. So I will be awake just at the airport. But I don't think I'm essential to the conversation. So if it works for everyone else, I mean, Bella, if you can join in Salah and then UIN Jambi folks, I think it's fine to go ahead with next week.
Yeah, I could do next Friday morning.
Okay.
Muftil, can you do Aisha on next Friday?
We are also okay, Mas.
Okay, great.
Okay, yeah, we will be join.
And was it 7 p.m.
Yeah.
Indonesian time when this started?
Yeah,
I know it's
7
8
p.m.
a.m. our time. Okay.
So it's not
7
really
p.m.
late. So
Okay.
But it's Friday night,
Yeah.
I know.
so we're making them.
Yeah, I have to leave,
We're
but if
really
you guys want to
late.
keep talking, please go ahead. I have to go to campus. I'm about 2 hours late. So
No,
I will,
thank you, Jen.
I'll send my notes, but you guys please continue on. It was wonderful to see everyone today. So thank you.
Thanks, Jen.
Thank
I'll
you,
see you in a
Jen.
bit. Yeah.
Yep, okay.
But
Take care.
Thank you, Jen.
bye, Jen. But shall we plan for next Friday then?
Yeah, let's do
Yeah.
that. Let's kind of make it a little tentative, just because, like, if I don't have anything progress on my front with my colleagues here, I don't know
Right.
that I'll have anything
Yeah.
new.
So
Yeah,
please
yeah.
keep us updated on your side, Salah. So on email or something, so we can.
But I do think we need to get
evening
something.
time is works for us. So
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, what
So-
is your timeline, Salah? Like by what sort of
Well,
date do you need to have a syllabus kind of like up and running, including like a project sort of laid out?
well, I mean, it really depends. Like the main thing is like if we're ordering books. Right now, we've been talking about
Yeah,
using you can't see because it's called Ornament
there
of
we
the
go.
World.
Oh,
Mm.
Okay, and it's really focused on how the title is How Muslims, Jews, Christians Created a Culture of Tolerance in Spain, in medieval Spain.
Oh,
So it's
wow.
really
Okay.
focused on Spain, but
Uh-huh.
it has a framework that we all like because it has the interfaith part of it.
Hmm.
Now that's a different context than, I mean, in Indonesia, of course, it's not the how Muslims, Jews, and Christians created a culture of tolerance. It's how Hindu, Buddhists, Muslims, and indigenous cultures
right,
created, you know, and the model, like in my view, the model of Indonesia is quite stunning and in the
Mm.
sense that it's not reliant on necessarily a kind of colonial model and it has there's a different relationship of Islam there because of the history of Sufism and so whereas in like I don't know enough about Islam in Indonesia, but in Spain, of course, it was so conflicted. There was a lot of conflict, and so and the reconquest of Spain was especially you know because it was like Christians basically expulsing Jews and Muslims
right,
Mm.
when the Spaniards reconquered. So you have a different, like yours is a living tradition of tolerance. In Spain now, they don't want Muslims coming into Spain from North Africa. Like they don't want Mexicans coming into the United States. It's like, so you have that
Mm.
living tradition of tolerance, but it's also a challenge because, Islam is not indigenous to Indonesia. Indonesia has its own indigenous cultures
mhm,
and quite diverse and beautiful cultures that have to contend with the dominant Islamic religious practices in on the island. So this is a different kind of situation, but I think in some ways we could look at Islam in Indonesia and Islam in Spain and kind of see that there's some things that are like the framework of coexistence,
right,
uh, and I'm critical of some things in Islam, and but I was raised within the culture, so I have a different view um, than a lot of North Americans, and then also a different view from a lot of my Arab Muslim, uh, you know, brothers and sisters. And so, like even in my family, literally brothers and sisters, like we don't all think the same about it.
mm,
So it's like we're in between, like people like Muhammad and I, born in North America, raised within the culture, but also raised within North American culture.
right,
So we have a little bit of, we're always looking at sort of everything having to do with our culture and our religion from those two perspectives, being inside of it but also being outside of it. And um, and so and that's very different than, say, you know people who have grown up in a Muslim majority environment where they practice the religion and everything is available to them to practice. Whereas here, of course, we grew up with, it's like what Aisha was saying a little bit about how the inferiority that Indonesians feel in relationship to Arabs because Muhammad was an Arab and the Quran is in Arabic and prayer is in Arabic and all of those things. Uh, but I think we also feel that even though we're part of Arab culture because we're outside of it. We're not real Arabs. We're
mhm,
like North American Arabs, and so and Muslims, and so we're never authentically. We don't, like, so if I say anything, for example, if I say anything like that's critical of Islam, like let's say with relationship to gender, like I have daughters and I have sisters, my mother and my aunts and my grandma, women in my family. If I say anything about like that's critical of Islam, then people think it's because like I'm North American and I don't, I'm not loyal or, I'm not, I don't like I'm against the religion or something.
But Salah, can you speak Arabic still, or you cannot speak Arabic?
I studied Arabic for a long time. Like grew up speaking it with my family, but I've been outside, for a long time now.
Okay.
So my Arabic understanding is pretty good.
Okay.
And I can read fairly well. I'm not like I don't understand everything I read, but like I can, I don't know if you all can read Arabic because
Yeah,
like
we can read
when you
Arabic,
learn
but we
when
don't
you learn the
understand, right?
yeah, yeah. So like when you learn the Quran, you learn to read Arabic and like you
Right.
just don't understand all the words.
Right.
So my reading, I don't read in Arabic every day. So, I don't read in Arabic all the time, but I used to. And so I have like when I get back into it, and then when I'm there, I can communicate, in the market and do all
Oh.
that stuff. And, I get by. But like if I'm in a conversation like this, no,
And,
you know.
and what about Muhammad? Muhammad, I don't think he can speak Arabic too. I don't. I never
Muhammad's like
heard.
Muhammad's like me, but he has a better literacy
Oh, okay.
in
Yeah.
Arabic. His reading of Arabic is better.
Yeah.
And he does he does
But you
read.
Just
know,
reading,
first,
but not conversation, right?
but here in
Yeah.
Indonesia, especially in Malay, we learn Arabic, but not Arabic from Arab, but Malay Arabic. Uh,
Oh,
Malay
yeah.
Arabic. The
Mhm.
letter is Arab, but the but it is the meaning is Malay word, Malay language. But the letters are Arab. From
Yeah.
like
So
my grandfather, my grandparents, they learn Arab Malay. They can read Arab
mm,
Malay. They can also read thing down Arab Malay, but they don't know understand.
mm.
They don't understand Arabic, and also then don't even they don't understand Quranic. Yeah, Quran.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think my mother and father who, they weren't educated, so they didn't know like the grammar of Arabic very well. They couldn't teach us Arabic because they didn't go to university. They didn't have an education. They didn't have the model of learning that would allow them, and so they just thought we would learn it from them speaking it. So they couldn't like if we asked them a question like why is it like this? They didn't know. Like most people don't know why their language is like that. It's just that's the way it is. So they would just say, "Oh, that's just the way it is." And then if you ask them the meaning of the word to translate it, they couldn't translate it because they didn't know like the English word. They only knew the Arabic word.
Mhm.
And
So
they
so
grew up in Canada,
no, my parents grew up in Lebanon.
Oh,
Lebanon? Mm.
They went to school in Lebanon, like in villages, small, really small villages of like very small. Like in my dad's village, there was really nothing there except farmland and these stone houses and a
Mm.
mosque, a
Wow.
small a small mosque. Like no school, no hospital, no. It's still
Mm.
it's still like that. It's like up in the mountains, and it's agriculture. It's all
Mm.
agriculture,
So is it
and
like a madrasa, like a small madrasa type thing, or just like literally community-based sort of
they,
reading?
they well, it's changing a little bit now, but at the time when my father was there, I mean, like this is like before World War II. It was like a long time ago and like almost 100 years ago. So he's passed away now, but like he really didn't go to school. Like he was learning trades, like how
Mhm,
to
mhm.
agriculture and how to cut stone. He was like a stonemason. So they took, the
Wow.
boys to teach because they made all the houses out of stone. So they would go and they had like there's a mountain and they would cut the stone out of the mountain and they would make the houses. So that's what he did. And so he was like a builder. And so they didn't like, but they knew a lot of like they knew some basic engineering and design stuff. Like they learned that from doing it, like how to calculate, how to get things straight so that everything was square and the building was structured, so that it wouldn't collapse and it would be safe. So, yeah, I mean, my mother's village is just down the hill, but they had it was a mixed village of Christians and Muslims. It still
Mhm,
is. And
mhm,
they have a mosque and a church and a hospital and schools. And I mean, they don't have like a high school, but they have like maybe up to about eighth grade.
mhm.
And So she only went to 6th grade. My dad, I think, maybe didn't even go to 4th grade. He just went to the mosque and learned Quran, and then that was it. As long as you could read the Quran for a little boy, and then they just took him and put him to work. And so then he left when he was pretty young. So he left Lebanon when he was probably around 17 or 18. So then he only went back once, married my mom, and that was it.
Oh, wow.
So he never, but he sent money, and his family was there, and so he helped to support the family there. And it's an interesting story, but I think like in terms of learning Arabic, like I think they just thought like if they spoke Arabic, we would learn Arabic. But if you don't, like if the kids don't speak it to each other, like my brothers and sisters and I, we never spoke Arabic to each other. Like we just spoke English. So, and they wanted us to be successful. So, they didn't mind that we would speak English because it's assimilation.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I mean, it's one of the great things. I never really had Arabic conversations. Like my dad would speak to me in Arabic, I would speak in English. Like I never spoke Arabic to my dad. Like he understood everything I said in English, and he could speak English. I mean, he learned English. He taught himself English because he lived in Canada most of his adult life. But like when you think about it, like with my mother, it was the same. Like she spoke more English to us later in her life, but when we were younger, she always spoke Arabic with us, and so we learned to understand it. But if you don't speak it, you don't get the formulas you get some of the basic stuff, but it's hard to sustain a conversation. And
Yeah,
you're
so is
always
my son. So my son, I think his English is gone because we never speak English at home. So I don't know if I can like make sure that he can speak English again, but we're just lazy to speak English. So my son,
yeah.
he used to speak English very well, but now he kind of like speak local language and Indonesian. So
Well, he can learn English if he wants.
In
He'll
school.
learn. Yeah.
yeah.
Everybody has it's like almost compulsory now for people. It's just
I know, right? Yeah.
I don't know what
the
we could do.
accent, I'm afraid his accent, his American accent will be gone, like, without we
Oh.
knowing it, right?
Yeah. Well, that's not so bad.
But they can pick it up later. They can learn
Yeah,
later
yeah.
in life.
Yeah.
Hopefully, yeah,
Yeah.
I hope he can like, pick
Yeah.
and like send back his accent.
Yeah, well, that's not so bad. I mean, it's better he knows your language than English.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Because then he would be like me, never speaking, like I never had a conversation with my mother and father where I spoke Arabic to them.
Right. Yeah.
Never.
That's bad.
Except
That's
to
not
say yes or no or thank you or goodbye or I love you or I mean, we only use those little phrases, but like to actually have like a normal conversation about whatever it would be, like food or clothes or things like normal things that parents talk about with their children,
Yeah.
school, like things like that. We just never had that. Now, some of my cousins do have that with their parents because the parents were more strict about making them learn Arabic. And so, and my parents were fairly like they learned English. So they were totally literate in English. Like they could read and write in English and they taught themselves.
Yeah.
So
That's always impressive. My goodness.
yeah. Like they never went to like an English language, second language
Yeah.
school, something like that. So listen, this has been great, and we'll get back.
Yes.
Can I just say before we
Yeah.
leave one thing
Uh,
and just mention about the round table?
Oh yeah,
yes.
sure.
Oh yeah.
So I am so sorry, but I went ahead and did
Yeah.
ahead and did this. So as Pak Mufdil, maybe Pak Aisha and Pak Erwin may not have known. So MSU is co-hosting the now annual AFIS MSU Conference on Indonesian Studies. So everybody and anybody, US, international base, and Indonesia, doing research on Indonesia will gather at this conference. So we now have, a complete program. So I went ahead and proposed to do a roundtable to talk about COIL, but I have, identified and invited teams of international educators who have also done COIL with Indonesian students. So I included in our roundtable 3 teams. So one is us. So I was thinking I think this is a space for us to reflect on this process, like the lecturers from UIN Jambi and MSU, including myself and Asian Studies Center, how we are doing this and what are some of the questions and so what are some of the struggles that we're going through as we plan this. The 2 other teams include one that is having a collaboration with universities in Namibia, Peru, Indonesia, and Germany.
Oh.
And then another group is Indonesia, based in Bali, with China and Japan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they've all
That's
done their
great.
COIL except us. We are still in the beginning.
Huh.
So it's a round table. It's not like a panel, paper presentation, because we've not done research on this. I would love to engage in research on this process and outcomes, or however we want to do. But now it's on the program. Now it's in the conference agenda.
Okay.
And I apologize beforehand for just going ahead and doing this in thinking that, it would be a productive space for us, to present what we're doing. We're sort of like a work in progress, and then to hear from those 2 other teams. And so that's currently the schedule is Friday, June 24th at 6 p.m. Indonesia time and at 7 a.m. our time, Salah. So it's even earlier.
Yeah.
If that fits for your schedule, I think it would be great for, the 3 teams to share. I think I'll connect you with the 2 other teams so that we know what to anticipate. And I think each team can sort of respond to a set of different questions, or if we have a question that we want to ask them, because they're a bit more sort of, advanced, they have done the COIL. Let's ask them those questions. And during this roundtable, it's a 90-minute session. So I think between the 3 teams, we can spend each 15 to 20 minutes, and we can have multiple speakers. We can have, Salah and you, Pak Mufdil, or Aisha and Dion, 4 of us could talk 5 minutes each or something for our team. And then they can have 3 speakers from there, so it's a bit more fluid because it's a roundtable.
Oh, interesting.
What are your thoughts? I'm so sorry again for being presumptuous.
I think this sounds great, but are all 3 doing that going to be in that roundtable at this?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're the 2 other teams that are presenting. So they're So they're they are our co-presenters.
So are they going to have? Do you know how many people are going to have?
I don't. So I can connect everyone through email. My sense is for the China, Japan, Indonesia one, they might have 2 or 3 people speaking, maybe 2. And then for the Germany and Peru, Namibia, there might be only 1 or 2. Yeah.
Okay. So we should probably not have we should probably have just 2 people. Maybe.
Okay.
What do you think? Maybe 3?
Maybe 3.
Maybe
I
we could do
can
3.
come and listen, so I don't speak anything. So
It does. I do have to think about. So registration is required, but Salah, for all
Yeah.
MSU faculty,
haven't-
we have funding from Diliaku that. So your registration and Muhammad and Martha, they're all covered. Dion, I know you were also presenting another paper. So
yeah, but you
were
haven't.
already gonna.
I don't get the number of bank number that I can transfer.
Go to the conference website and there's
I
a
opened it
registration.
one time at that time, because when I got the notification email, and then I opened up the website, but there's no information of bank account that I can transfer the money. So I hope it's not late though.
No, it's not late, but you do
No?
have to
Okay.
register soon if you want to be, here's the
I will. Of
Indonesian registration. Yeah. Indo registration. Here. There's a Google Doc. It's a form. You have to pre-register and then pay in Indonesia bank transfer. Nah, saya nggak tahu. Would you have funding to cover registration for Pak Mufdil and Mbak Aisyah? Or I might have some funding that I can cover.
And
250,000.
we might also from Templeton and from Global
Yeah.
Study. How much is the registration?
For Indonesia, it's $17.
Oh, yeah, we got that. We
Okay.
we can cover that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So if, you know,
Deal and Aisha can,
Pak Benny, Pak Erwin, Pak Iwan is also like, you know, maybe Dion,
Global
you can.
Studies will cover all of the Indonesian
Okay.
or Templeton. Yeah.
I think it will be
You said 17, like 1-7?
1-7.
1-7.
so excited to join this roundtable.
Yeah.
What was that, Pak Mufdil?
No, it was. I don't think.
Yeah, because
it's like,
it's in Indonesian currency, Salah. So when you convert to US dollars, it becomes only $17 or something like that. So, yeah, and it's really minimal. The registration for US and international is like $30 or $50
Okay.
because we want equitable sort of access to this for Indonesian scholars and everyone else.
Okay.
Okay.
And it's all online, right?
All
It's
online.
online.
The conference time, so everyone will have access to the entire conference. So the conference is literally only morning and evening, morning, evening, morning, evening.
Okay.
Yeah, for us it's 7 to 10. For Indonesia is 6 to 10, 6 to 9.
I see,
Morning
I
and
see.
evening, so that we can have both parties present. Yeah.
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, why don't you, I think you should probably, Bella, you should probably just decide who you want to participate on our side.
Okay. Sure.
And,
Sure.
like, I don't think Muhammad, Martha, and I, all three of us, just one of us.
Okay. I think maybe just you, Salah, to represent, because I think you're in the forefront of this.
I'm happy to do it. Yeah. And I think like and this is one of the things I told Martha, I told Muhammad this also, is like, and I think I mentioned to you and mentioned already here, is that like, from my perspective as the director of global studies, like I see this coiling thing as like something we should build into our courses. Like
In many more courses.
maybe not all of our courses, but where
Right.
faculty want to do it, and then
Yeah.
provide the support for them to do that.
Absolutely.
And so like for me, this is kind of like learning how to do this so that I can help our faculty if they want to do it.
Absolutely.
And then that'll help us to be like more like globally inclusive, you know, and provide our students with a richer experience because they want to go and study abroad, but it's not always possible. So this gives them
Right.
opportunities to connect and learn about a place, and then maybe they'll go there. You know,
Yes.
and maybe we can talk about a study abroad in Indonesia. I don't know if we have programs at
Please
MSU.
do.
I
Do we
think
have
it would be
education
great.
abroad? Do we have education abroad in Indonesia now?
Currently,
MSU?
not to Indonesia. I don't think so. We used to, and
Yeah.
I used to run one, and
Fee
Dion
Okay.
was
pool.
part of it too.
Give it
Yeah,
back.
but
Okay.
not right now. But I think it'd be so cool if a course like this then builds and ends with, you know, MSU students going to Indonesia,
Please,
Right.
Yeah.
please.
and
Yeah,
then
yeah.
like having that experiential immersed, like after
Yeah.
being scaffolded through the course. How great!
Yeah.
Because
Anyways.
Prof Suaidi is really willing to support this program if like there is a, you know, like study program, like, you know, you student from
Mhm.
MSU come to, you know, like Jambi, like
Yeah,
He will,
that's
like,
one of it.
100% support on that program.
Sala, there's also funding to support faculty like yourself, you know, to do exploratory trips to build a program like this. If you and
Yeah,
I want to
yeah.
work together on this and we can go
Sure.
to Indonesia, you know,
Definitely. Yeah, I'd definitely love to do that. And you know, we gotta make sure we have faculty interest because like it can't just
Yeah.
be one person. That's
Absolutely.
the challenge.
Absolutely.
You know, but let's think about it. I mean, there's different models also, and I know that there's going to start to be more interest in that as we, depending on how the COVID thing goes. But I mean, we're
Yeah.
still in it. You know, we're still in it.
Yes, we are.
But
Yeah.
people are traveling, and you know, one of the things that I notice, I don't know if you're seeing this on Indonesia, but one of the things I notice, a lot of the, so do you know IREX, which does international, IREX?
Yeah.
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 And Meridian, you know, Meridian is an agency that also does these international exchanges.
Yeah.
Agencies. Yeah.
Yeah, like IIE, like World Learning, like, yeah, there's a
Yeah,
bunch of these.
and
Right.
Fulbright. I mean, and Fulbright also similar. But so Global Studies has two programs this summer. One is for European students, and one is for African young professionals.
Cool.
And so we're bringing 20 European undergraduate students this summer to an Institute of Civic Engagement.
Oh,
They're from
cool.
all different all different European countries, like 17 different countries. So
Wow.
it's federally funded program through Meridian. So Meridian is the agency. They got the money from the federal government, and then
Yeah.
they sent out a call for proposals.
What's the
And
name of that program?
It's called SUSI,
Susie?
Studies of U.S. Institutes.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh,
So I'm working with Xinyu
Mm-hmm,
Wu,
mm-hmm,
the IPP on that.
mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
so
Okay. Cool.
she does all the logistics, but we do the academic program. Global Studies does the academic program. So
Yeah.
she does all the travel for the students and all of the, when they're here, like their housing, their meals, cultural activities, visits to Lake Michigan, visits to Detroit and Ann Arbor, and all of those kinds of things. I provide the academic training. So it's an academic institute. It's not for credit, but they
Yeah.
do get a certificate. At the end,
Yeah.
they'll get a certificate.
Mhm.
They're not MSU students. They don't come as MSU students, but they do get MSU access to everything, library, online,
wow.
while they're here. And then
Yeah.
they're also considered alumni in the program so that they can, use that if they want to, come back or if they want to participate in other programs that we have. We should see if there's something for Indonesia. And
Yeah, absolutely.
sometimes it's regional. So there's one for Africa. It's called YALI. It's Young African Leaders Institute.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got one of those also. So we're also doing the Young African Leaders Institute this summer. And I'm doing that with the Alliance for African Partnership at MSU.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the same deal. They do all the logistics. So Asian Studies would do facilitate the program.
Yeah.
Logistically, and then we would provide the academic piece of it. But we have to, so like the course is a course in civic engagement. So it's community service. So they're connected to local community organizations. So they come here for 4 to 6 weeks, and they work with local groups on specific issues like housing, sustainability, women and gender, youth empowerment, and those kinds of things. So
Very cool.
yeah, so we've partnered with local groups to host them. So they go and but in the morning they get the class. So they come and they take a class every morning with me or with an instructor that we find, or a guest lecturer or something like that. So it's kind of like a summer school program with extracurricular components to it. And they tend to be regional. So the Meridian one is for European countries, and the African one is for African countries. So I'm not sure if there's another one for like, the Pacific or for Asia, something along those lines. But
Yeah, we should look
yeah,
out for those.
but some of them are country specific. So we applied for one for Bosnia Herzegovina. Similar. We didn't get that one, but there might be some that are country specific, and there might be something for Indonesia. But because we're already doing that work and we've already built up the relationships with the local groups and we have the curriculum, if you had something like that you wanted to work on, we could. So not just think about sending American students to Indonesia.
Yeah.
If we could bring some Indonesian students here
Wow.
in the summer.
Yeah. We just have to be on a lookout for those type of
Yeah, we
opportunities
should
and apply
explore
for the
that
grant.
program. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really
So the application process usually goes through the embassy.
okay.
Yeah.
So you
Yeah.
have to look at the U.S. Embassy website, and it's through the State Department's Education and Cultural Affairs. Is
Yeah.
that ECA?
Does ECA, yeah.
Yeah.
Education and Cultural Affairs. We tried one, Dion and I worked on one that was, U.S. embassy in country in the U.S. mission.
Jakarta.
They have the public affairs sections in the U.S. embassy in Indonesia and many others. So
Yeah.
we submitted a proposal, but we didn't hear anything.
Oh, yeah.
We
I've
just
done
didn't
that.
hear anything.
Yeah.
So we'll
I've
have
had-
to try more.
I've had that experience. Well, the thing is that like so the Bosnia Herzegovina, that was a direct application to the embassy
Yeah.
in Bosnia, and
Yeah.
and we didn't get it, and they didn't notify me right away. So I wrote to them and I was like, dear embassy people, and they did respond and told me that we didn't get it, and they did communicate eventually and gave me some feedback. But they just went with the university at Nebraska, which was already doing it.
Oh.
So like they already had, like they only did one American university,
Oh.
whereas
Okay.
Meridian has 3 and IREX has 25.
Mm.
25 American universities. So there's
Involved in this project.
in the Young African Leaders Institute.
Yeah,
There's 25 different, including us and Wayne State.
Mm.
So the competition, like they're looking for institutes to host.
Yeah,
Universities
I
to
see.
host. They're looking for, IREX is looking for universities to host these institutes, whereas some of the smaller programs that are direct applications to the embassies, they already have a university that they're working with, but they have to, by federal law, announce that it's an open competition. But
Yeah.
really, they've already established a partnership with some university.
Which is
So
bad because then it wastes everybody's time, you know.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
we
yeah. I
spent
put
a
a lot-
lot of time on that
Yeah.
one.
yeah, but it was good because even though we didn't get it, it made the connection
Yes.
with VIPP, and then they saw that because I connected with VIPP to do the Bosnia Herzegovina, and then so our colleagues over in VIPP, they were like, well, Salah can do this with global
Yes.
studies. So then
Yeah.
when she wanted to do a grant application, she came to me.
Yeah.
So
perfect.
it built that connection, and we work really well together, like with
Yes.
Asian studies and with Muslim studies. I mean, that's our natural sort of connection through ISP is to those centers and those programs. So so this works really well for our program, and it develops these international connections. So so I'd really be interested. And we have, if it's regional, if it's Asia, I mean, we have people in our program, who are Asia specialists, work in Japan and China, and we don't have anybody that's an Indonesia specialist in our program. So we need to think about who would be a good faculty member to bring in, core faculty member for our program. And I don't know, like, if we have anybody in the College of Arts and Letters, and it doesn't have to be an Arts and Letters faculty member.
Right.
But our bylaws for our program are set up that only core faculty can lead our can teach our academic courses. So we have, like, it's not like we can just offer our course to any faculty member. So we have to bring them into the program like a department, almost.
Yeah.
We don't hire, but we have to select from the faculty that are MSU and then invite them to become core faculty.
Okay.
And then,
Yeah.
and then once they're core faculty, then they can teach our courses and be part of our programs. Now we do have affiliated faculty from outside, but those are more like just people who are kind of interested in global issues, but not.
Well-
Not Indonesia.
Well, Beth Drexler, I don't know if you've
Yeah, I know
been-
Beth.
Yeah. So Beth
Yeah.
is sort of one of our core Indonesianists on
Yeah.
campus, but she's CSS.
Yeah, and she's
outside of
also the
Siddharth.
director of Peace and Justice Studies.
Peace and Justice. Yeah.
If
So
you
we
speak
we, o- we
Malaysian,
overlap.
is he
Who's-
like supervising Malaysian Student Association? Drexler, that's your
Beth?
mention. Yeah.
No,
Beth Elizabeth Drexler. No,
Oh
no.
no.
I don't think so. Yeah, I don't. I mean, I have to look into it. Do we have a list of faculty
We
who
do.
work specifically on Indonesia?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Well, they're sort of like more like, peripherally, has had international, Indonesia experience, but not, researching on Indonesia. Like,
Okay.
for instance, like Dr. Laura
Only
Apong,
Siddharth Chandra.
Yeah, I mean, Siddharth, of course, like he's core
Yeah.
Indonesianist, but like Dr.
Yeah.
Laura A. Paul. Do you know Laura A. Paul from the College of Education? So
No.
she's a children's literature, but also poetic inquiry
Oh.
specialist in the education, but she's led with me, study abroad programs to Indonesia, for instance. So she has that
How do you-
Indonesia connection, but it's not like a core research on her portfolio,
Yeah. How do you spell her last name?
A. Paul, A-P-O-L.
APOL.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll talk to her. She does children's literature. I mean, and-
Yes. Oh my gosh, she would be a great connection for you.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll reach out to
Wonderful.
her. And
Yeah.
this has been
Yeah.
really good. And thank you,
Yes.
everyone, for your time and for your commitment. I know you've been working so hard on this on your side, and we
Yeah, thank you,
know,
Mufdil, Aisha.
Thank
Yeah.
you,
Did
Pak
a good
Mufdil. Thank
job.
you, Mbak Aisyah, Pak Iwan, Pak Erwin.
Thank you, Professor
Pak
Salah.
it's always great to see you all.
This
And-
is very incredible moment, opportunity to have a discussion with you. I'm very honored
Yeah.
to be here. Especially Mas Dion, Mbak Bella.
Yeah, thank you.
well,
Please,
don't
please come next
hesitate.
week if you have time.
We will plan to meet, and I'll try and get some work done on this, and so we can look at our kind of common goals. If we can kind of
Yeah.
get that down,
Right.
and so I'll talk to Muhammad and Martha about
Yeah.
that and see where we can go.
Yeah,
Thank you
and
so
start
much.
sort of with the project. But if you're right, I think Salah, if it's a bit too premature, we can wait another week. I think if it's a more productive conversation to wait, then I think we can wait.
Yeah.
I mean, it really depends on your timeline too.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, we're kind of we let the faculty do their syllabi, but because there's the three of us and we're all coordinating, it's
Sure. Yeah.
Normally, like I don't ask faculty for syllabi until the week before the semester.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, do you have your syllabi ready? And then they send me something like
Yeah.
in August, and then we put it in we have like a Google Drive where we keep them, for people to access for reference.
Yeah.
But we don't vet the syllabi like in our program. Like we don't have a curriculum committee that says, oh, this is acceptable. We just let the faculty do it, and they teach the courses they teach, and we accept that. So they have full academic freedom in that regard. So nobody's
But
going
since
to
this is
vet.
new, right?
Yeah.
Since this is
And
new
I would-
and collaborative.
Yeah, and I'm going to have a busy summer because I have those two institutes. So I
When
want
do
to
they
get
start, Salah? When do
June
they start?
8th. June 8th.
Oh, so it is. It would
2
be
weeks.
sort of work to your advantage if we kind of settle this
Yeah.
a little bit more earlier. Okay.
Yeah. If we can get it done, that's why I told them I want to try and have at least a draft syllabus, so we know what the main thing is. Like, what are we reading? What are we assigning? What do we have to? What do we have to prepare so that we can be prepared? When we do assignments from students and things like that.
Yeah. The piece by Robert Hefner that Mufdil and Baisha has on their syllabus might be
Yeah.
interesting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And Bob Hefner is the president of APHIS. And so we're working very
Oh.
closely. Like you'll hear him all throughout the
Oh.
APHIS conference.
Okay.
He would be a great, speaker for.
And he can
Okay.
speak
And
Bahasa too, right?
He's very fluent in Indonesian.
Yeah,
That's his
sure.
topic. So he's a close collaborator
Not
of
only
the
Bahasa, Mas
CRCS.
Dion, also Javanese.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
Where-
he's that
where-
close collaborator in with our Gajah Mada colleague Salah.
Okay.
Um,
Where is his?
And also Mbak Bella.
Oh, there he is.
Professor, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, please, Professor.
This. Yeah. I'm
Boston.
Gonna look
He's in
close-
Boston.
I'm going to look closely at the syllabus and your syllabus and pull from it what I can so that we can use that actually.
But
So
we
there'll
will
be that-
we will send you the edit version like pretty soon, Salah. So
Okay. Wonderful.
Okay.
All right.
Thank
Have
you,
a nice
everyone.
evening.
Thank
Enjoy your
you.
Have a
Friday.
good night.
have a good morning.
Have a good weekend. Thanks, Salah.
Bye.
You have a good weekend.
Thank
Yeah,
you,
you
Pak
too.
Erwin,
Yeah.
Pak
Dion,
Iwan.
Pak Mudil,
Bye.
Maisha, Pak Erwin, Pak Iwan.
Have a nice
Yeah.
weekend.
Have a nice
Bye.
weekend.
Bye. Thank you.
Talk to you next week.
Bye. Talk to
Bye.
you. Bye.